It's Women's Policy Rollout Week. Are you
So
excited?
Very, yeah.
I'm super excited. My name is Jess O'Connell. I'm a senior advisor for Mayor Pete, and this is a really exciting week for our campaign. We're rolling out our national women's policy. So I invited Mayor Pete to come and sit down and tell us a little bit more about it. What are you most excited about in terms of the plan?
The fact that it is comprehensive, that it's not about any individual issue alone, but it's really about how they fit together, and it's about power. It's about making sure we enhance the social, economic, and political power of women.
I mean, I'm obviously Team Pete, right? I'm working with you in South Bend and with the team, and one of the things that I love about this team is that it is a majority women. I think a lot of people don't know that, actually, and I think it really speaks to how you're going to govern. I come out of a place like Emily's List. It's the largest organization for women in politics. I've spent almost my whole career working to elect women of color, and so I get the question a lot. You know, why am I with Mayor Pete, and what's he going to do for women? I know you must feel like I do, which is I admire a lot of the women that are running for president. I helped elect a lot of them, but I know why I'm with you, but I'm curious about how you answer that for folks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud to be part of the most diverse field ever to compete for the presidency, including some extraordinary women leaders. I talk to a lot of voters who are disappointed that we haven't had a woman as president yet. So am I. Frankly, a woman should be president right now. And that's just a simple fact. At the same time, I think now each of us is competing based on what we propose to do. And my message to women who are wondering whether they should vote for someone like me is I'm hoping that you will support me. Whether you do or not, I'm definitely going to be supporting you. Because I know what it is to rely on alliances in order to secure some of my own rights. Things like my ability to marry is the most important thing in my life. It exists not only because of the leadership of people like me, but the support of people not at all like me. And it's one of the reasons why when we think about racial justice and when we think about gender equity in this country, I think it's important to have all of us supporting one another.
You had the chance to meet my son recently. I see so many parallels, I think, in terms of sort of intervention and opportunity around family and family planning and paid family leave. I mean, I think, there's this sense that they're women's issues. Right. And it really frustrates me because these are issues for everybody.
To me, good family values are making sure it's possible to build a family and to thrive. We have an opportunity right now to actually deliver things like paid family leave, to deliver paid sick leave, and set it up in a way that it works. Whether you have a traditional full-time job with one employer, or as so many people are finding, your place in the economy is more complicated than that, with gig work, part-time work, folks with multiple jobs.
Watching people and families have to piece that together is really hard and it seems long overdue.
And we need to make it easier. It shouldn't be this hard to be able to support a family, to be able to take care of a family, to be able to spend time with your family.
One of the things I love about this plan is it's about building power for women, which I think is pretty bold coming from a guy, but I love it.
As somebody who's worked as much as you have to make sure women are in seats of power, you know that so many of these policy issues only get better when we have empowered women in positions of responsibility and decision making. We know that our economy's growth is largely because women have been more and more in the workforce, and now we need to make sure women are in leadership in the workforce too. And yes, this certainly includes pay equality. It's why I'm insisting that companies be transparent and employers be transparent about gender pay gaps. And so many of the problems in our economy come down to the fact that people just plain aren't being paid enough. That is especially true for women and particularly true for women of color.
I think for a lot of women, this is a particularly scary time in the era that we're living in now, with the current leadership that is not only in the White House, but actually kind of throughout the country, particularly related to choice. The entire time I've been alive, Roe v. Wade has been law of the land, but it's always been under assault.
Of course it means appointing judges and justices who understand that this is part of American freedom. We've got to take executive action, protect Roe v. Wade legislatively, and make sure we have the right kind of judges and justices. Well, I think men need to learn how to be feminists. These are objectives that everyone in society should be behind. I think the Me Too movement was empowering for women, but really a wake-up call for men on things that have been tolerated or assumed away for far, far too long. This is a problem that doesn't get fixed unless we have a society-wide reckoning. It's happening at the social level. Now we've got to make sure that policy catches up.
Think we can do it?
We've got to.
Yeah.
We've got to do it, and I really think we can. Part of what you'll get when you send a mayor like me to the White House is a mayor who has led a diverse city struggling with a lot of challenges of justice around race, around gender. These things really hit home, I think, on the ground. We already know that we've got a crisis of violence against transgender women of color. We've got to have an Equality Act that establishes that whether you are trans or otherwise in the LGBTQ community, it is not lawful for you to be discriminated against. I have a real sense of propulsion to get into the White House and make sure that it is a force for justice and belonging and inclusion. Right. And that is especially true for our most vulnerable Americans, and that's often black trans women in this country.
I'm curious what women in your life have had the most impact on you.
You know, it starts with family, of course, and you know, my mother is a strong, smart, professional woman. I've been privileged to work with so many extraordinary women. The first candidate I worked for was a woman running for Congress. Some of the most inspiring and impressive leaders around the country. I'm thinking of folks like Nan Whaley, the mayor of Dayton, Ohio, who responded magnificently to the tragedy, the shooting they had there, but just has been an all-around great leader. I'm thinking about people like Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister in New Zealand, who also in the wake of tragedy demonstrated the kind of strength and compassion and leadership that I hope a new wave of world leaders will be able to advance on the world stage.
Has there been a particular story or someone that you've met along the trail that was surprising, or something that sort of stayed with you?
In community after community, I'm meeting women who are really changing the story of their neighborhoods, their towns, their cities. And it's a privilege to encounter them and to continue to think about how to make sure that my campaign and eventually my presidency can be supporting them. You're making history. You are changing what the future of this country is going to look like, and that we can't do it without you. You know, the first time I really felt hopeful, I think after the election, certainly after the inauguration, was seeing the Women's March. And the one in South Bend was really moving, not only because of the message it sent, but because it had this generational quality. Now, there were young women, and there were their mothers and their grandmothers at their side cheering them on. And it had a kind of joyful quality, even as it was responding to this horrible challenge that we're faced with. That's the spirit that we need across the country if we're going to turn the page, not only defeat this president, but replace this presidency with something better. The women of this country are going to be at the absolute forefront of making it happen.
Great. Well, I'm going to hold you to that. I'm proud to be with you. Thanks,
Thank
Mayor.
You.